Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. It's been a little while, and I'm definitely looking forward to starting a new series here. So we're going to be going with Parallax Destinies, and the reason for that we'll get into in just a bit. But the first thing I want to flag here is that it's very small here in this text. If you can see down in this corner over here, we're on version 1.12.4. Now that version only came out, as far as I'm aware, literally yesterday, as I'm recording this. So some of the mods that we have installed haven't been updated for this version yet. It seems to work reasonably okay. I did run into a small visual glitch when testing earlier with one particular engine type. We'll see if that continues. Hopefully the mods will get patched soon. But let's hop on over and get ourselves a bit of an update on what mods we're using here, because I have updated the mods list. So let's pop over to CCAN. It's maybe a little small here, but these are the mods that we have installed. I don't think I can embiggen this text at all, unfortunately. I apologize for that. But this is what we've got installed here. So we're going to be running our standard spate of mods. I didn't actually remove any mods except for the EVE stock planets textures. I did remove that because we have replaced that mod with Parallax. Version 2 of Parallax, the big new graphics mod. So overall, we're running broadly the same mods, except we are running Parallax and its dependency mods, including Kopernicus, Harmony 2. I think ModularFlightIntegrator was required by Parallax as well, but that might be a different mod here. Scatterer was previously installed, but I didn't have it installed through CCAN because the CCAN version had not been updated. But it is now updated through CCAN, and that's actually running version 1.12.4. There's these 1.12.9s. I think that just indicates that it's supposed to work for any 1.12 version. But this is the spate of mods that we have here. There will also be a list in the description of all of the mods that we're going to be running. It's still fairly vanilla-ish. I'm mostly running graphics mods here. We do have ReStock and ReStock Plus, as we have had previously. So that should be great. Let's transition back over to the game here. And let's talk a bit about what the goals of this game are. Now, I chose the name Parallax Destinies for the reason that, well, we've got Parallax installed, and I wanted that to be reflected. But I also wanted it to be like a play on Manifest Destiny versus like parallel Destinies, right? I'm not sure where I'm coming from with the parallel bit yet, but maybe we'll have some sort of a... I just have an idea brewing in my head right now about like some sort of a rivalry between a Soviet like Roscosmos and NASA style space race to colonize the planets. I don't know how I'd pull that off. It's an interesting idea, to be sure, but for right now, we're probably not going to do anything along those lines. I literally just thought of that as we were talking about this. But the Manifest Destiny portion of this is definitely like the goal here. There was a comment in the poll about colonizing all of the moons and bodies in Kerbin, or rather in the Kerbal system. And I like that idea. Hence why I went with like a Manifest Destiny style title here. So it would be a sort of colonization style game. We're going to need to determine what the definition of a colony is for the purposes of this. At what point are we allowed to move on and head to a different, like start creating a different colony and just like pretend that the colony is developing in the background? I think we'll need a list of criteria for that. Feel free to leave suggestions in the comments on what those criteria could be, and we'll come up with a list for that in the next few episodes. We're definitely not going to be ready for that colonization because we're going to start a new career mode game, and we're going to have to farm up some science and cash before we can do that. So we've got a little bit of time there, and that's great. I also want to say that this series will definitely be over by the time KSP2 enters early access. I'm going to say that right now. If KSP2 ends up being a worthy successor to KSP, which it may or may not, if it ends up being a worthy successor, this is likely the final KSP1 series that I will be doing. And we'll be transitioning to KSP2 after that, assuming KSP2 is, you know, functional and, you know, entertaining. So that would be the overall concept there. The series will end before KSP2 enters early access, guaranteed. And the series is about colonizing all of the bodies, with the possible exception of Jewel here, since, you know, you can't land on that. We might have to create like an orbital habitat for that one, which isn't the worst thing. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about the patch notes for, let's see, for 1.12.4. Unfortunately, the patch notes appear to have disappeared off of Steam for me, and it's a little bit strange. I don't know why that's the case. Maybe they deleted the news post or something, but the fact of the matter is the changes that they made appear to be designed to fix the robotic arm spaghetti noodles problem that we were having in the last series with the asteroid mining. So hopefully they have fixed that physics. That would be amazing. But for right now, what do we need to do? We need to jump right on in. We'll start game, and we're going to start a new game. This is going to be the Parallax Destinies save name. Okay, and what flag do we want to go for? I didn't add a flag for this. I maybe should have, but I really do like the Blurbs flag. I think that's a good one. There's also the Ethiopia KSP flag, which is always hilarious. It's been a while. What else do we have here? The Blurb flag is definitely nice. I'm kind of tempted to go with the Ethiopia one. Parallax Destinies. Parallel Destinies. There are parallel lines in the Ethiopia flag. Huh? That is a really lame tie into the title. And I love it. It's perfect. We're going to go with that. Of course, the flag doesn't really matter too much. We can change it later as well, I believe. We're going to run this entirely on default. There's our 4KSP here using the stock UI scale settings. Yeah, they did add those at some point. So that is all nice, and we're not going to be running any changes here. This is just going to be completely default. Missing crews will apparently respawn in 2 hours. In theory, we shouldn't be killing any crew members, but it's fine. So let's go ahead and start with Parallax Destinies. Now, I did notice that with Parallax, loading times, at least at the beginning, when you first load up, appear to be a little bit longer. The performance doesn't seem to be impacted tremendously, and that makes a lot of sense because they are using GPU instanced draw calls, which will add a lot of performance. And I did a little bit of testing, and yeah, you can't really see the parallax on this screen, at least with the setup that I've got. Once we actually launch something, that's when all of the details pop in. It's a little strange, but this screen is very sparse, so there's that. For right now, we are, of course, going to hop into the mission control. We're going to gather scientific data from Kerbal. We're also going to launch our first vessel. Fantastic. So now we'll hop into the VAB, and we're just going to design a really, really quick vehicle here. We're going to grab the Mark 1 command pod. We are going to put in a Mark 16 parachute, not that we're planning on actually lifting off here, and then we're going to slap on a Flea solid fuel booster. And we're going to turn down the amount of solid fuel down to like 14. I'm not planning on actually launching this here. I do want to put on the Mystery Goo containment unit, and that's an inline. And then we've got the KER. I always think it's weird that this isn't tied behind a technology. I don't know. I feel like it should be. But we will definitely go ahead and launch this here. I want to, if I can remember how to move these, I want to move that over. But I can't actually remember how to do that. The UI scaling doesn't appear to be too bad. That's always good. KSP is always a little bit weird with the UI scaling in 4K. But let's just go ahead and load this in and view all of the beautiful Parallax doodads that get added in. Like I said, at least at the beginning, it appears to be slightly longer on the loading time. But there we go. So we can see that there's definitely a lot more things added over here. That's great. I do want to point out, oh, that's a little flickery. Okay, that's one of those potential visual glitches that may get fixed later on. So that's fine. That's something that may get fixed with like an update to one of the mods, or if I change some things around slightly. But we'll identify those and work on fixing those throughout the series, and if I make any mod changes, I will let you guys know. Okay, so I'm noticing that first off, we don't have the X Science here and now window. That is, of course, because we need to go into here and open up the X Science Here and Now window. I don't need this open. But the X Science Here and Now window is so handy. So we're going to grab our crew report, we're going to grab our mystery goo observation, and we're going to EVA and grab our EVA report. Cool. Now we'll recover our vessel. It was a very successful flight. You can tell by how far we flew. Cool. So we're going to get ourselves a little bit of science here. Just as soon as we load on in. Any moment now, KSP. There we go. It's definitely slightly slower. I do have this installed on my SSD, so that's not a problem there. We did get 8.9 science there, so let's hop in and we can grab either basic rocketry or engineering 101. Now, engineering 101 gives us access to the too hot thermometer, and so that is what we will take. Cool. Now we'll hop into the VAB, and we need to grab ourselves our thermometer data. So let's go ahead and attach the thermometer over here. I don't need to be saving this. I don't know why I'm saving it, but we'll just go ahead and get that put on. Excellent. And now, as soon as this gets loaded on in, I don't know, I feel like that's maybe about the same amount of loading time, actually. KSP has always had some awkward loading times. We'll grab our temperature scan. Temperature readings are quite literally nominal. We'll grab our mystery goo observation. Not that we're going to get much science from that, and we'll go ahead and recover. Will that give us an additional 5 science, is the question. We'll see. It'll be a little bit, that's for sure. Cool. So 3.1 science, so we do have 6 science here. The question is, do we save up for survivability to go down into basic science later? Or do we grab basic rocketry now? This is going to cost us 15. That'll give us access to the barometer, which will give us, and also access to the service bay. I think this is the route we pursue. So we're going to go back into the VAB here, and we're going to actually launch this thing. Not very far, but we're going to launch it. Cool. So this will be our first tiny little hop. We just have an SRB on here, so we can't really control like the thrust or anything like that, but that'll be fine. We just have a tiny amount of fuel in the SRB too. Just enough to lift off the ground. And I don't want these to be firing at the same time. Okay. SAS on. You ready, Jeb? Jeb looks awfully ready. Let's go. Crew report, temperature scan, mystery goo observation. We're going to drop the parachute. Parachute opens up, and we will float gently on down. Now, can we EVA here? No, we need an upgrade to the astronaut complex, so we can't get the EVA report, which is slightly unfortunate, but let's just physics warp on down. And that'll give us a tiny bit of XP there, as well as getting us a decent amount of science. Cool. And we'll recover that. Beautiful. So that should give us enough to unlock basic science, in theory. In theory. And we're going to have to run that flight several times in order to unlock all of the science from it. It'll be a little bit awkward, but I prefer to do this rather than like rolling around the KSC in a science booster, or a science roller rather, and just gathering from all these locations. I prefer to actually fly. Okay, so we got a bunch of world first milestones, and we should also grab ourselves another contract here. So we completed both of our existing contracts. Orbit Kerbal is definitely one that we want to do, and also escape the atmosphere. So we'll grab those for now. That's not exactly what we're targeting at this moment. So we're going to grab our survivability here. There we go. That gives us our barometer as well as our service bay, which will make things slightly easier. Cool. So we're going to hop in here and put our service bay on. There we go. We'll get that opened up, and we may as well make this be... Oh, this is only changing the caps. Okay. I was hoping that we could make the whole thing a... Actually, we could make this white. That'll be fine. Make it match a little bit better. Cool. So we're going to put the mystery goo containment unit inside of the service bay. And we're also going to put the thermometer inside of the service bay. And let's put on a barometer now that we have access to that. Cool. We'll close the service bay and put that solid fuel booster back on. We're not expecting to fly yet. I remember there being a way to move these. I definitely remember that. But for now, it'll be fine. I'll just close that, and I don't really use these statistics anyway. I use the built-in ones, so we can just minimize it. It'll be fine. Okay, so let's go ahead and launch this thing. And we are, of course, going to be doing a tiny little hop again, but I think we need to stay on the ground first. Because we need to grab our atmospheric pressure scan here from the ground, and we can't store it yet. We don't have the tech for that. So we're going to keep that experiment. We'll recover this, and we will launch this thing once again, and it'll actually fly this time. So that'll give us a small amount of science. We need like 45 in order to continue down the basic science tree. We're probably going to go down the rocketry tree at this point, just because we're going to need to be able to fly into orbit, right? But we do have 20 science at the moment, so we can grab basic rocketry here, giving us access to the Pug, as well as the Valiant and the Swivel, and T100 fuel tanks. So liquid fuel is always nice. That's only 5, and we're not probably going to go down these trees just yet. We're going to target basic science at this point. Experiment storage units are great. Science Junior is great, so that'll be fine. But now we need to do a quick flight. So let's hop into the VAB yet again. And let's put this out on the pad yet again. We're going to do a very quick hop here. We shouldn't have access to any science on the pad here, I think. That should pretty much all be done. Yes. Excellent. So up we go. Hilariously, this fired at the same time. That's okay. It doesn't matter. We just wanted to fly very low. So we're going to head on down. Beautiful. That'll give us a little bit of mystery goo science as well as some barometer science, which is always nice. Okay, we'll recover that. And now we're going to have to start making a bit more serious of a craft, because we've basically gotten everything that we can out of this particular craft, unless we wanted to try to, like, fly out over the coast and splash down. We could probably do that with this craft. That wouldn't be the worst of ideas, actually. So what I'd want to do there is I would want to increase the amount of solid fuel in this. And then let's check our actually, we can see it up here. We'll check our thrust to weight. It's currently 6.38. So we can thrust limit this thing down to be somewhere around here. Cool. Now, we are definitely not going to break out of the atmosphere with this. That's okay. And we definitely do want these to be separated. Cool. Okay. So let's go ahead and launch this. Things could get mildly awkward, but all we're trying to do here, if we get a flying high, that's great. If we shoot straight up, we might be able to get a flying high, actually. I don't want to shoot necessarily straight up, though, because I want to do a splashdown in the ocean out over here. So let's go ahead and SAS on, and we're going to lift off at a much more reasonable speed here. Much fewer G's, shall we say. Cool. And we're going to go mostly straight up. We're just going to chill around here. This angle should be sufficient to get us out over the ocean. We're flying low over the shores right now. Cool. And we can see we've already burned almost half of our fuel here. Okay. I'm going to go a little bit more horizontal at this point. Emphasis on little. That looks quite good, actually. Nice. Okay. So we are out of fuel at this point. We're now flying low over the water. And that's okay. We're going to keep on coasting here. I'm going to turn SAS off. There's no point in having SAS on at this point. It's just wasting power. We broke an altitude, land distance record, and speed record. Yeah. All great. Okay, so we're going down at this point. We're definitely not going to get flying high. I'm going to drop out our parachute, and we're going to grab our crew report, our temperature scan, and our mystery goo observation. Cool. That'll be fine. And we can't EVA while in the air here. Not that we'd want to at these speeds. But we're heading on down. Let's go ahead and physics warp forward. Parachute will open now and flip us around. Heavy G's when we flipped around, but Jeb likes G's. It should be fine. Now, apparently, the underwater area has been beautified quite significantly as well. The camera usually doesn't like to go underwater when we're floating on the surface like this, but we can see. There we go. Yeah. Okay. I mean, there's a lot of nothing here but water right now. I was expecting caustics. I think I'm missing a mod for that. I'll look into that one. But for now, we're going to grab our atmospheric pressure scan. Cool. And from here, unfortunately, we can't grab all of this stuff. Splashdown is easy to get, though. So we're not going to be too concerned about that. We're just going to recover this vessel, and that should give us a good amount of science. Yeah, I think I might be missing the shader mod that CCAN recommended. Let's see here. Audit recommendations. Shaddy. Well, that's recommended by ReStock. I'll have to look into that. Okay. Well, for now, we earned 14.4 science, putting us at 48. Cool. Let's head into our R&D. That allows us to pick up basic science. So basic science will make things a lot more efficient for us in terms of gathering science. So what are we going to do here? We are definitely going to install a Science Junior. There we go. We're also going to install an experiment storage unit. It looks a little awkward there, but it'll be fine. Cool. So, I think that was all we got for science experiments. Yes. Fantastic. So we'll go ahead and save this now, and we're going to just put this on the pad. We're going to have to put it on the pad several times to get the science from the Science Junior. Alternatively, we could do this a little faster if we were to substitute in a scientist for resetting. That's an option. We're going to grab our materials study here at the pad. There we go. And I don't want to revert the flight. I want to recover. There we go. So yeah, I think that'll be our best-ish bet. We'll see how much science we end up getting out of that, but that should cut our number of quote-unquote launches in half here. So that would be nice, for sure. Okay, 7.5 science gotten there. Let's hop into the VAB and implement that plan. So we're going to hop into our crew. We're going to ditch Jebediah here, and we're going to put Bob in here. Excellent. Of course, Bob can't actually fly this thing, but we don't need him to. All we need to do here is get our science from the Science Junior, and then store it in here. Actually, we can do 3 collections, is what I'm trying to say. This should finish this up. So we'll keep that experiment, and now we're going to collect that experiment in our experiment storage unit. Now, Bob is going to EVA, and he's going to restore the Science Junior. I think I closed the doors. There we go. Now we'll conduct the materials study. And apparently we can grab science from the EVA. I think this is bugged. It's not going to actually get us science. Okay, we're going to board here, which is going to store that in the Mark 1 command pod. Actually, we didn't have to board. We could have just stored it from this menu here, but that's okay. Bob will EVA again, and he will collect this data. There we go. Now we will store that experiment here, like I said. Restore the Science Junior. We have 3 locations we can store the Science Junior data in. So now we'll conduct the material study. There we go. We'll keep that experiment this time. That will stay stored in the Science Junior. And now we'll recover the vessel. And that should be the Science Junior done at the launch site. In theory. We have a lot more places we can collect science from, of course, but for the time being, that will do. Excellent. So how much science did we get from that? 2.1? Not a ton. But that's not surprising, considering what we're doing here. So we'll hop into the VAB one more time. And we are going to put now Jeb in charge here. We'd like to get a two-seater command pod, but I don't believe we have any of those at this moment. Yeah, we don't. So eventually that would be the ideal, but for now, this will have to do. And we are going to launch this one more time here. And we're just going to splash down into the water again, and we're going to get as much science as we can doing that with the collection that we can do. So, realistically, I'm just thinking about how I want to handle that. Well, off we go regardless, and we're just going to head over at like a 45-degree angle. Should be fine. We'll grab our material study here. I think X Science might need an update. We should already have a material study here. Recovery 17.5 science. No, that is correct. Okay. Good to know. We'll keep that experiment. We cannot EVA report at this time. We're going to run out of fuel here in a moment. And now we're going to start slowing on down. We're going to fire off the parachute. And let's just time warp here. SAS can come off. We don't need the SAS. Cool. And we pull a few G's, flipping around there. No shocker. We're not going to get a material study from splashdown, but that's fine. We're going to splashdown so many times. Okay. There we go. So we've got our crew report here in the water. We can grab our temperature scan and our mystery goo observation. We can also do an EVA report. And there we go. Now, we could do a material study here, but this is actually worth less. So we'll just recover that. And that'll give us a good step on our science journey here. And that'll be great. Pretty soon we're going to start trying to actually break out of the atmosphere, but now is not the time for that. Right now we're just collecting science, and that will be fine. However, it is about time to put a cut in here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and next episode, we're going to gather a little bit more science and likely look for an orbit. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including Casserole, JJ Gamer, ALS Gamer, Kentuin, Atala, Jensgram, Spartan News, Nick Smarty, Video Games Are Not Real, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.